Chickadees, welcome to a new video. Today I will be showing you how I made some late Victorian combinations from my bloomer pattern. So this is my pattern here. This is the back bit, this is the front bit. I used my bloomer pattern, which I will link down below, to kind of get the basic shape. I also used the manual of needlework and cutting out, which was linked in Bernadette's bloomer video, or combination video rather, but basically it just confuses me. So I have, so for the front bit I've basically just cut out the very top bit of the bloomers, and on the side I've just made it straight rather than having it a curve, and I've just added a bit more to the top, or a bit more width to the whole thing, and a bit more at the top here so the tops can overlap. And then on the back, again the side is straight, and then I'm assuming this curve here is for going around the bottom, but I'm not sure. That's how I read it on the pattern, so that's the way I've done it. So this will be the bottom. So when I put it together, I'll basically put it together like this. So you've got the front here to the crotch and then round again, and then it's gonna fold over like that. So yeah, I'm gonna make this up and obviously try it on and see if I need to change the back at all, or whether my brain has gone in completely the wrong direction. But I do also have enough linen left to cut out another one. This only took about just less than a metre of fabric, which was really nice. And then the front bits, I just basically used my bodice blocks. That's a lot of white. Ooh. I just use my bodice blocks, and so this would be the side waist point here, and then I just curved it down to account for the gathers here, so lengthen it by about an inch, or an inch and a half, and then doing the same to the top, lengthening it by about an inch. And this is the back piece, I believe. No, this is the front piece. So the kind of just above the bust where the straps will be about here. I just remembered that Marika from Enchanted Rose Costumes also made a pair of combinations from the same example as Bernadette. I've just watched her video and she used a slightly different pattern, but it's from the kind of crotch point here to the waist. It's a pretty much actually a vertical straight line on both the front and the back, which does make sense. That will probably give you enough space at the top to overlap enough to keep it decent, whereas we're having shaped like this, I have added an inch this way to give me a bit of overlap. Don't know how modest that's going to be, but we'll make it and see. So on my next pair, if I kind of feel like this is too curved, I'll just straighten the pattern up a bit, and then if this bit is too kind of flappy and baggy, then again I will just straighten the pattern. So yes, I will make these up, see, and then if I need to alter the pattern for the next one, I will. But as I said, these are from bloomers that I wear cycling, so I know it's got a nice fit on the rise, so we'll see. I first cut out all the pieces and started stitching them together at the side and crotch seams. These were then felled and the edges were stitched into a rolled hem. I did this by hand on my first pair of combinations because the linen was super slippery, but it gave me a bulky seam which caused slightly ugly gathers later on down the line. On my second set that I'm currently finishing up, I simply serged the raw edges, pressed them up once and zigzagged them into place. This gives me smoother gathers but visible finishing, which I'm not always a fan of. I also cut out 2 ruffles that went on the bottom of the legs, which measured 6 inches long and about 100 inches or 2.5 meters wide. These were sewn into loops and the raw edges were hemmed with a narrow hem and then gathered to fit into the lace at the bottom of the leg sections. Now it's time for the lace inserts. I made the pattern using extant examples, but still kept it quite simple. On each piece, I made a mark in the centre at both the top and bottom edges. I then laid my lace pieces down between these marks. This lace was then stitched into place and the fabric underneath it was cut open, pressed and then stitched down. You can do this by hand or machine. I personally did it by hand, but I would be careful if you're using a lace with a large scallop, as the edges can flip up if you just use a straight line of machine stitching. This is what happened with my waistband piece, because I put that on with machine stitching and I had to go in and stitch the scallops down by hand afterwards. Speaking of the waistband piece, I measured my natural waist and added 2 inches, one for the overlap and one for the seam allowance. I marked the centre, back and side with pins. To attach it to the bloomers, I matched these pins to the corresponding points and then gathered down the pieces to fit. For the top section, I attached the top edge lace first by measuring across the top of my chest and then adding a bit more for the front edges. Just like before, I marked the centre, back, sides and front edges with pins and then matched them up with the corresponding points. I gathered them to fit, concentrating the gathers to the centre on the back piece and spacing them more evenly on the front. I then mitered the corners to bring the lace down the front to serve as a button enclosure. I then attached the top section to the waistband as before, and then it was just the finishes. I used a lilac lace for the waist and top tie, and to also go through the lace on the bottom of the leg pieces. I would recommend a sturdier eyelet lace for this project, as this trim has a habit of popping, especially if I sit funny, but I do tend to put one leg underneath me when I sit down. These types of lace also have really tiny holes for the ribbon, and I think my ribbon was just too wide for it, but I think a thinner lace probably wouldn't give the same effect and may be a bit too kind of cutting, so I opted for a slightly wider lace. I added buttons and buttonholes down the front. I think this is the first project in quite a while that I'm not completely in love with. There are a few things wrong with it, such as the legs are too wide, so I've tied the ribbons tighter, which gives a cute gathered effect. I've tweaked the pattern for my second one and will update you on my Instagram about how it turns out. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, even though it didn't turn out quite the way I was hoping. Everything I have mentioned will be in the description. Whilst you're down there, if you would like to like, comment and subscribe, that really helps me out. If you want to support me further, then check out my Ko-fi page for ways to donate. Don't forget to be kind to yourself and compassionate to others, and I will see you all in the next video.